we'll give you a snapshot of my site and how you can use it for the topic that we were talking about this morning, leadership development within your district, and all the tools that are there. So without further ado, go ahead.
Oh, I'm not going to repeat a lot of what he said, but the Aspiring Principal Program in Grant County was started to identify and develop leaders within our district. And when we thought about a lot of times that people move into positions of leadership because of experience or maybe because they did a great job in their current position, but we don't always get the intentional training that it takes to be a leader. And that's what this whole program was for. Before the program started, administrators in our district were asked what they wish they would have known before they got in that position. And this is just one of our administrators.
I would say the single most important thing that I learned about leadership after becoming principal was the relationships you need to build with your staff and all stakeholders, not just staff, but also teachers, students, janitors, everybody. And the other thing is to make sure that you follow everything you say you're going to do.
So our administrators were asked what they wish they had known, and in turn, we were asked what we wanted to know. This was the first day of our program, what we would like to know about leadership before we started. And each one of us answered that question. This is just a little snapshot of that.
What I would like to know first about becoming a leader before I become one is, how do you as a leader stay connected to the classroom instruction so teachers trust and support you leading on new paths of academics?
And we got answers from what are specific leadership traits we need, all the way to how a principal stays connected in the classroom. And from all of those responses, that's how Mr. Livingood constructed our curriculum. And that's the curriculum that's on this website. And we got everything from a general idea of the dispositions, the traits it takes to be a leader, the theory behind it. We studied a lot of research. And maybe the most important thing that we learned is where that theory met the practice. We had, along with our superintendent, we had former administrators come in and speak to us, and we were able to ask questions. So we had decades and decades of experience that we had access to. And that was really where the theory met the practice, and that put a lot of it in perspective for us. And probably the most important thing that I think a lot of us took away at the end of the program is it helps us to be leaders. It's going to help us when we're ready to take that next step. But we're taking these traits and this information back to our classrooms, and we're better leaders in the classroom. And I think we can make contributions where we're at before we go into administration. And they're going to take you through a couple of our days.
So I chose to talk about day 2 curriculum, and fortunate for you, there are all 4 days of our curriculum is available on this website. So if you go to curriculum and then down to which day you want to talk about. The first day was a lot of get to know you activities and kind of an overview of leadership. And then the second day was my favorite. Mr. Livingood has put up the agenda that we had for each of the days and our activities under each of these. So the most important thing that I found on day 2 was the leadership profile. And before we came in on day 2, we actually had given us the Discovering the Leader in You book, and we were asked to read chapters 1 and chapter 5 before we came in on day 2. And then we talked about that, and then we were able to take our leadership profile and actually plug in our personal realities, our leadership values, our leadership vision, our current organizational realities, and the impact and legacy that we want to leave, and then our leadership profile. All of those things went together to kind of give us a framework of how we felt we were going to be able to lead. So this is just my personal leadership framework, and this was so important to me because as a mom of 2 young boys, I was just kind of, yes, I'm so excited about being a leader and furthering my career, but how is that all going to fit in to my leadership role as a principal? So it was really nice to put in my personal realities of being a mom and finishing my our graduate work and all of that. And then with the current realities, you know, with PGES and Common Core and all of those things, and then take all of that and put it into our leadership values, which we talked a lot about being trustworthy and transparent. And then what my actual vision, it wasn't Mr. Livingood saying, this is what your vision needs to be. It was, what do I want my leadership vision to be? And my leadership profile about what I felt I was good in, strong in, and my weaknesses. And then how am I going to leave an impact? And he focused not just leaving an impact in the educational field, but also in your life, and how all of this plays together to make you the leader that you are. And we talked a lot about leading from within, which was a big relief for me, just to take all of this, and this is who you are, this is the leader that you're going to be, and you're going to take all of this, and this is how you're going to lead when you are in administration. So that was a really big takeaway for all of us, and in our reflections, you can see that. And then I also liked the video by Sir Ken Robinson. If you have not seen it, I would encourage you to do that. And this is a very nice video, but it taught me as a leader that it's okay to be a change agent and to take risks. You don't have to, you know, focus everything on instruction and everything on assessment. That kids are the most important focus of being a leader, and it's okay to take risks and do what's best for them. So that was my biggest takeaway from that video. And then, like Mr. Langley has touched on, in the afternoon we were able to have, I don't even know how long Mr. Brill has been an administrator, several decades, but we were able to ask him questions and get his feedback, and he connected it back to his profile about how he was a dad and going to the ball games and his administrative responsibilities. He connected that all back to real life. So the curriculum is all there. It has a lot of good resources.
Can you, just real quickly, the adaptive change, since you had mentioned that we adapted, and that's one of the adaptations I made to the curriculum. I hadn't planned on doing Hyphen's work on adaptive change and differentiating technical and adaptive and differentiating authority and leadership, but all that resource is there. The chapters that we use, plus the bibliography there, which if change, and I should have anticipated that with all the changing going on that teachers were dealing with, that would be how do you navigate change as a leader? And so that was one of the changes we made in the curriculum.
And it was really nice to see that technical change is, you know, the nuts and bolts of it, this is what we have to do. But the adaptive change, he focused a lot on how do we develop a culture so that we can have adaptive change and that our teachers have buy-in and things like that. So we spent a lot of time on that, which was really good.
And I'm going to touch on day 3. A lot of what we did in this program were things to help equip us with the skills and information and knowledge just to become better leaders. So this would be something very valuable to implement in your county, even in just helping your teachers become better leaders in the classroom. I got a lot out of it just to help my own students. And then one day I do want to be a leader, and this was so important to me because even though I sat in a classroom every day, well not every day, but like 3 days a week at Xavier University getting my rank 1 and administrative degree and everything, which was helpful, but I mean that was a couple years ago and it's kind of removed, whereas when you participate in something like this, it's personal, and when someone in your own county is believing in your qualities and help equipping you with these traits, it makes it a lot more real. And it made me really think about the things that I could do to help my county just in the classroom and in the future. It wasn't just some idea out in the clouds. So this is very practical and technical information that you could just print out. It's all right there on this website and do with a cohort of your teachers, and I think they would find it really beneficial and inspiring to become better leaders. What we did on day 3 with Marzano, we talked about the 21 different traits that or 21 different, I didn't even know there were 21 different things you had to think about as a leader. I mean, relationships is one of them. Obviously, I think about that every day with my kids. And it turns out that relationships, with their meta research, was actually one of the lowest things that helps you be a good leader. But we actually did some more research later that day with Dr. Wasisko. Did I say that right?
Cisco.
Wasisko, I knew that sounded wrong, sorry. Wasisko, who showed that relationships and dispositions do really make a big difference. So it's just kind of like how you use the research to help you be a better leader. But with Marzano, some of the things with the 21, that's what this first, when you click on there, what you'll get is something like this. We had to read the whole, what each of these 21 things were, but there were some things like, I didn't even know what situational awareness was. And these are things that now, I mean, I already knew what relationships were, I do it every day, but this gave me some other information that I could work on in the classroom and in the future. I mean, the job that I'm aspiring for, that position might not come open for another 4 years. So I'm like, what can I do to work on this for 4 years until it vacates? And these were some of the things that I can refine myself on, or even just begin to understand, you know, like evaluating. I became a peer mentor this year with the PGS system, and just different things that I need to make sure that I know what I'm doing now before I actually get into the trenches. Because like Mr. Langley was saying, sometimes, like I'm on site-based too at our school, and we're a little bit hesitant to hire someone who doesn't have experience yet. But how do people who aren't experienced get that experience? So going through something like this cohort, it kind of gave me some experience before I actually get my feet wet in that position. So I found it very valuable. But there's 21 things that would help your teachers or your leaders in your school if they became excellent at doing these things. We actually ended up refining it into our top 6 that we value at our district: situational awareness, flexibility, input, evaluating, knowledge of curriculum, instruction, assessment, and culture. And we really broke it down a lot into assessment and culture, because we're kind of in this mindset of all this assessment, and sometimes we get a little too worried about the results and the product and the well-being of the child. So Mr. Livinggood is helping us develop how to make assessment make us better make our instruction better rather than the other way around. Like, rather than improving our assessments, let's improve our instruction and the well-being of the child. And then the same thing with the culture. It proves that culture can have just as big effect, as you all probably know, on the students as Read 180 or any intervention program you're using. So just keeping the culture one of trust and positivity and things like that. Once the books come out of back order, may read some of Todd Whitaker's culture books too. So we got to read a lot of good research. Also, after that, with Dr. Wasisko, we learned about different scenarios and how we would handle them. And he gave us some, like, and actually a lot of our principals in the afternoon gave us some scenarios as well that I would have never thought about. Like, the health department walks in and you know how many drinking fountains are in your building. I don't know how many drinking fountains are in our building, or just things that you just need to be aware of that you would never think about. And so there's just so much that goes into being a leader, and it just made me really want to be more in tune with our school. And I can tell you this, there were a few of my colleagues sitting in that meeting that decided, maybe I don't want to be an administrator. And that's good too, because then it's like, it kind of weeds out and maybe it makes them realize their passion for the classroom or something like that. But it helped sort of all of us think about what leadership really does mean as a principal or superintendent. So I really respect you a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. But anyway, Dr. Wasisko was saying that it's good to have a disposition that is identified and able and larger, that shows the big picture and you don't sweat the small stuff, and a people frame of reference rather than a things frame of reference, like not worrying about the mechanics and the chairs and that kind of thing, but more about the attitudes and the beliefs and the welfare of the people at your school, which agree with my philosophy.
So Mr. Livinggood has graciously put all of the resources that you would need to implement this cohort on this website. The PowerPoints are here, the assignments that we had to do, everything is broken down, the agendas, everything is here, so, under curriculum.
On the last day, we were asked to reflect on what we learned and how beneficial it was. And I think what we realized at the very end is we don't know what we don't know. There was so much encompassing that, and like she talked about the bathrooms and things like that. You all know much better than we do about leadership and the things that go into it. But what we did get was a great foundation to move on. We have, like you said, we have all of these resources. It's a ton of stuff that we can always look back on. And one of the most other important things is what she referenced, our leadership framework. We can see how all of this foundation of research and theory kind of partners in with our personalities and our visions and our goals. And I think almost all of us that went through the program would say that was hugely beneficial.
And he asked us at the end, we had 5 questions to answer, and one of them was how are we going to take what we've learned and apply it to our leadership style, and how we are going to change maybe our idea of how we would lead. And like I touched on earlier, I think that the biggest takeaway for me was that I can't step into the leadership role and lead just as I have seen my former principals lead. I'm going to have to take my leadership profile, and I'm going to have to take my traits, and that's how I'm going to have to lead from within. So that was the biggest takeaway for me. And I'm going to do that in my classroom as, the kindergarten leader now. I can take the culture pieces and the climate pieces that I have learned and be able to be a positive role model for my other teammates in this role now that will prepare me for the future.
And I just thought it was really important to gain the skills and information and knowledge that we did, and then we also wrote down some things that we would like to see for the lucky cohorts that get to do so next year. One thing we talked about is maybe shadowing a principal or a superintendent, because when we put theory into practice, it's very different, and so we thought it would be really neat to gain all the information from one of you on a in the trenches day basis. So if you all had any input for this, we'd love to hear it, or if you have any questions or concerns.
It was definitely
Comments?
beneficial, and as I will finish my administrative degree this spring, and I even emailed Mr. Livingood and said, I pulled out my binder to, reference some of the work that we did in this cohort to help me with some of my grad school work. So, it's very, very beneficial.
Does anybody have any questions? We appreciate you having us.